Hey guys, welcome to episode number 2 of Live in the Triangle, where we take your favorite triangle business people and entrepreneurs and find out where they got from their humble beginnings to where they are today. Today we have Laura, I'm going to butcher her last name, Florine,
Fiorilli. So,
Fiorlli-Crews
Fiorilli,
of the
yeah.
Raleigh Public Record, which is a small, independent newspaper here in the Triangle. For those of you who don't know, Laura, can you give us some information about what exactly it is?
Certainly. The Raleigh Public Record is a nonprofit online newspaper covering news from the city of Raleigh, Wake County, very local news. It was started in 2008, and so it's coming up on its 6th anniversary.
Awesome. So when we say news, are we talking about any and everything, more political news stories? What exactly?
We're talking about government and politics news that were traditionally the bread and butter of your local newspaper, that unfortunately, a lot of mainstream news outlets have had to cut back on due to technological and economic changes over the years.
So you say a lot of the newspapers had to cut back because I assume sponsoring as well has a lot to do with it. How do you guys continue then to succeed, I guess? How do you guys bring in revenue that maybe these other companies don't?
Well, we're a nonprofit, so that makes us a little bit different. We do have donors, and we've been traditionally supported by generous grants from various foundations that keep us going. But it's local people giving a few bucks a month that really will keep us sustainable for the long run.
And saying that, I assume the staff is mainly volunteers.
We pay all of our writers,
Okay.
and traditionally the editors and the one staff reporter that we've had have been paid. So we're kind of in a rebuilding phase right now. But anybody who writes anything for us is always going to get paid. We're not here to have people write for the joy of it and a byline or anything like that. If you want to do that, you can do it yourself. But we employ professional freelancers.
And saying that, how did you get involved?
Okay, well, I guess a little about my background. I grew up around here, and I kept on going away, but I'm back now for good, I hope. And over that time, I worked at various community newspapers around North Carolina, and then went back to school in Florida and got involved in the website of journalism. So that's my most recent professional newsroom experience was in one of the nation's original converged newsrooms. It was TVO.com in Tampa. And after my family relocated back here, I was looking for a way to stay involved in media without doing exactly the same thing that I had done before. So that's when I met some folks from the Record, and I joined their board of directors in 2012.
When we say board of directors, what exactly do they do?
That's the volunteer governing board for the Record. We have, I think, about 6 people right now from all walks of life who provide us with advice and oversight and so on.
Could anybody actually join then the board of directors, or how exactly is that process? You said you guys come from all walks of life.
Sure. We have actually done a couple of kind of waves of recruitment for that board over the last year or so. And once in a while, we just kind of put out a call for volunteers, and that's one of the ways that people can volunteer for us.
Okay. And so what makes you guys special? Like, there are tons of volunteering opportunities here in the Triangle.
Absolutely, sure.
Probably aware of, I guess the biggest one that always comes to my mind is Amber Smith's Activate Good.
Okay.
I guess to me, if I was a volunteer and I was torn between volunteering with, say, the Raleigh Public Record and something else, what do you think makes you guys special?
It's for people who care about media and the role of media in a democracy. You're not going to find it's not that sort of fun service project type of volunteering, although we do have people helping out at events and things like that. But it's about the cause, I think. The idea that news needs a new funding model, and that this might just be the way to go.
You said funding model. I guess just to get local and small organizations involved. or just to make look, for lack of a better term, community newspaper or online community newspapers, which probably to some people the Raleigh Public Record is.
Well, that's exactly what we are. And what I meant by that was that newspapers of all sizes are obviously struggling.
Yeah.
Everybody since the beginning of the internet has struggled with how to make that a part of the news business, even though it's exactly how consumers are getting news now, but it's not. It hasn't been how the big companies devote themselves to making their money. So somewhere in that confusion has arisen the. Actually, we're not the only ones. There are lots of nonprofit news sites nationwide and places that are just trying to get back into that local reporting game that so many of the corporate media have left behind.
So that's interesting. That's something I didn't know. There are other, I guess, nonprofit news sites like you guys throughout the nation.
Absolutely. I'm going to get stuck if I try to name names, but we're part of a network, the Investigative News Network, that has sprung up to take over that function, and probably the biggest one nationwide is ProPublica.
Okay. When we say Investigative News Network, is this just a network of journalists? Is this particularly in, I guess, more the community level, or can somebody from WRAL go and join this right now?
Well, that's kind of a trade group. That's just what they call themselves, and I think they do that to investigative kind of conveys the seriousness of what they're trying to do, and it's just kind of a loosely, or it's a coalition of organizations with a similar mission.
Okay. And so, I guess going back to the mission, if somebody looked at you today right now and said, sum up the Raleigh Public Record in maybe one sentence, what would you say the mission is?
Okay, I would say that we are looking to find a new path for journalism by covering local news, much as other places have done before, but in this new medium and with this new funding model.
Okay, and I guess then the question would be why I would go to you guys for news over somebody like WRAL or the News and Observer by chance. I know people at the News and Observer. You're right; they're getting their jobs cut left and right. It seems right now, but nonetheless, why would somebody want to go to your mind, the Raleigh Public Record, instead of the News and Observer?
It's on an even more local micro level, I'd say, than organizations like that. And we're not completely out to get each other or anything like that. In fact, we've had partnerships with both the places that you mentioned. But what we do is more neighborhood news, day-to-day coverage of inside workings at City Hall that don't always make it into the larger outlets.
You actually brought up something interesting. You just said, it's more day-to-day news. So something I noticed you guys have tried to do lately, and it might have been your predecessor, Charles Duncan, or it might have been in the transitional theory space that you guys created right now. But I noticed you guys have started to do events at Tiernanog.
Yes.
I'm going to touch upon that a little bit for those who aren't aware of that.
Sure. We had our first Raleigh Talks event, I believe it was in June at Tiernanog, and this is meant to be an ongoing series of events for people to come and discuss what we feel is either an ongoing controversy at the time or just an interesting topic. And we'll have a panel of speakers, but it's also a time for members of the public to submit questions and get involved in the discussion. That particular one was about the Oakwood Modernist House debate, which has captured so much attention lately. And we drew a good crowd, a big crowd.
And so is that something you guys plan on continuing to do, or?
Yes, it is. It's something that we feel reaches out, expands our audience, possibly expands the donor base too, and just raises our profile in the city.
Yeah, definitely. So I think I may have mentioned to you before, I come from the digital advertising world, and there's something I always like to tell people, and saying that always comes to mind is that offline is the new online. So if you can do something offline that really grabs the consumer base,
Okay,
that's what that reminds me of. So yeah, you guys definitely continue events. I think it's definitely a great resource to the public.
good deal.
So do you guys have any other things planned in the future? I mean, you're trying to transition maybe to these Raleigh talks. Is there anything else you can let out of the bag quite yet, or?
Basically, I'd just like to see our audience grow bigger because I think that there are many people that don't read us right now that probably would if they knew about us. And we'll get there through reporting, through finding the interesting stories that people want to pass along and read and share with their neighbors. And I think you're going to start to see us in more places.
Yeah. And you actually made the mention, and just for those watching at home, you said so your audience base is Raleigh Lake County. Or have you guys thought about going out to Durham, Cary, Chapel Hill, or is this mainly maybe Raleigh, Garnell, that area?
We'll stick with Raleigh for now. We've done some coverage in the past of the Wake County schools because that's for everybody in Raleigh and somewhat beyond. I think we're gonna keep to that core area, but if we were to spawn any copycats out there, that'd be all right with us too.
So I want to also to kind of change pace a little bit. So obviously you're a part of a nonprofit. I've done a few things in the past. Can you just talk about the joy in general of working with a nonprofit and trying to help get a company off the ground like this?
Okay. Well, it's new for me as well, coming from obviously a private sector newspaper background, but I'm somewhat excited about it because I did work in that environment where jobs were being lost constantly, where the forecast seemed to be changing from one week to the next, from one day to the next, and you didn't. I guess there's no industry or funding model where you really know what's around the corner, but this I think kind of frees us from those daily fluctuations of profits and the whims of a corporate headquarters somewhere.
Yeah. Well, I mean, not just that, but I know at least for me, at the end of the day, that like when you can touch one person's life,
Sure.
it's good. Everybody has that day job they go in, out. There's the daily grind, but being able to be like, oh, you were able to touch me in some way. For example, I'm a strong volunteer at the food bank here in Wake County, the Central and Eastern Food Bank with Jen,
Sure.
who's the digital manager. And just like some of the, I don't see the people per se who do get the goods, but I do get the email, and I know Jen, she works at a nonprofit, she's swamped, and to get a volunteer to come in and help her for a few hours, just that heartfelt email at the end of the day, I know that makes me feel good.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well, I mean, people who get into things like reporting and journalism are usually interested in doing that for the betterment of society, and yet you get pulled into this daily grind, and you find that you're not always thinking about that anymore.
yeah,
And I guess being a nonprofit means that it is at the top of our minds.
definitely.
We're here to make people better informed. That we're here to make democracy function better.
Definitely. I like that. Make democracy function better.
It's why a lot of us got into the business.
I like that. So I guess, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. I just want to say thank you again, for spending a few minutes with us this evening. I very much appreciate it.
Sure.
Where can people find you online?
RaleighPublicRecord.org. That's our front page. That's where you'll find all our top stories, as well as any event listings, even job listings when we're looking for freelancers and so on. But I've got to tell people to click their way through to RaleighPublicRecord.org/donate because we really could use your help. Whether it's $10 or $20 a month or something like that, or if you're with a company that can afford something bigger, we'd love to hear from you. If you like public media, got those NPR stickers on your car, then you will like us too. So give us a hand.
I like that. And right quick, you mentioned the donate button. Are you looking for one-time donations, or can people become sustainers, or how exactly does that model
They
work?
can. You have that choice right there on the page.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for your time. As Guys, if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me at Cole, that's at RileyTheTriangle.com, or you can always send me a tweet at Cole_Watts. I hear the Raleigh Public Records on Twitter as well, by the way.
Yes, we are. It's RAL. No, it's Raleigh Pub Record. Yeah, we're
Okay.
there.
But thank you again, guys, and as always, stay connected and stay awesome. Thank you.